Let me take the time out to say a special good morning to one and all. Welcome. It's To The Point for today, Tuesday, the 25th day of March, within the year 2025. Good morning to those of you via social media platforms, whether it's your Facebook page, YouTube channels. Good morning to you. Thanks for being with us this morning. I'm your host, GT, and it's Tuesday. It's the day of the week that we do host a representative from the opposition here in Grenada on To The Point. And with us today, we have Senator, Roland Cox with us. Senator Norland Cox with us this morning from the Sister Isle over in the Sister Isle of Carriacou. We of course, will be joining him shortly to get the program rolling off. Good morning to those of you, of course, driving around on the nation's roads, whether you're on the mainland, Grenada, you're in the Sister Isles of Carriacou and the Petit Martinique, and you're listening to the program. Good morning to you, and thanks for being with us this morning once again. It's a blessing to have you here with us this morning. Let's go over and say good morning to Senator Norland Cox. Senator, good morning and welcome. How are you this morning, sir?
Morning, GT. I'm just checking. I hope you're hearing me. I hope
loud and clear. I'm hearing you. I am hearing you loud and clear. So I hope you're hearing me loud and clear.
I'm hearing you loud and clear. Let me say it's a pleasant morning to you, listeners, viewers of GBN To The Point program. It's a pleasure to be here again this morning. It's been a while, but it's a pleasure to be back. Thank you.
All right, but it's always a pleasure to have you also on the program, sir. Carriacou, Petit Martinique, how is things over there in Carriacou and Petit Martinique in general? We know you just wrapped up Carnival and so forth. Tell me, what's going on inside of the Sister Isle this morning? Tell me what's going on.
Well, in terms of Carriacou and Petit Martinique, GT is, we trying to do our best to make every day much better than where it was post burial. So it's a step, a progressive step for everybody, bit by bit, day by day. For some, it is tougher than others, and we try to help wherever I can. You try to reach out to wherever I can, and so we try to encourage it as much as possible. While it's been a few months since the hurricane, as you know, post hurricanes there are impacts that happen thereafter, and some of those impacts are even more impactful than the hurricane itself. So some persons are experiencing that. So it's a new dispensation for us as island people, and I mean a lot of things would have happened, a lot of changes, also, in terms also a lot of loved ones would have passed. So it has been a lot for Carriacouans and Petit Martiniquans.
All right.
It has really changed how things were before burial. It has really changed.
Well, it's only obvious. I mean, go through the impact of Hurricane Beryl, and of course the other issues that intertwines with it also. It certainly will make a whole lot of difference. Carnival in Carriacou, there was mixed reactions in terms of Carriacou really should have hosted a carnival in 2025 and so forth. How was Carnival in Carriacou for 2025 thus far? What's that feeling you had? What's that rating would you give it if it should have happened or not? Tell us a wee bit in relation to that.
The persons are going to have different views on something like that. There are always people who love Carnival, and there are always persons who would never like Carnival. So you're going to find varying views on it. I think for the persons who normally would get little economic activity from Carnival, some persons use the opportunity to see if they can get a little extra dollar. So for them it was okay. And for other persons, based on what the situation was at the time, they couldn't partake and couldn't care less if you had Carnival or so. So it was basically mixed. And for persons who went out, and Angela said they probably did, and for persons who stayed away and did something else or used their money otherwise, they feel probably satisfied about it. So, as I say, I'm neither here nor there about it. It is just it's a process for everybody, for us to go through and for us to accept those changes as we move forward.
All right. I want to talk a wee bit about, post Hurricane Beryl, the recovery efforts in Carriacou and Petit Martinique. You spoke briefly in your intro in terms of how the overall spirit of individuals in Carriacou. Let's talk a wee bit about the recovery from Hurricane Beryl. How is things thus far? Are you satisfied with the recovery process thus far? That, of course, the ruling administration, they're the one that's taking care of it. Are you happy in terms of the overall progress that is taking place in terms of recovery after Hurricane Beryl in Carriacou and Petit Martinique in general?
Well, I think in fairness to the government, I don't want the answer to be really be centered around my personal opinion. But I think it's more so it should be feedback from the public, and from what we are hearing, generally, persons are grateful for whatever help or whatever support they might have received through the recovery effort from donors, persons who have donated houses, supplies, and things like that. Generally, persons are grateful. But in a general context, in a summary context, persons felt that things are moving too slow, whether or not it can be justified. But the general feeling is that the recovery process is a bit slow. And I think it stemmed from the fact that persons were well aware that the government received such a large amount of money right after the hurricane, 14 days after the hurricane.
All right, we have lost, of course.
They believe a large portion of those monies should have come towards Carriacou and Pidimatnik, of course, and the areas who got impact. And they believe that they should have seen something more significant in terms of direct support to persons, more help to persons. So that is the feedback that we are getting. So it's for the government to assess.
All right, we await the reconnection day from of course Senator Cox. We
have to see how they can improve that outlook, because the outlook is that persons feel that it's not going as fast as they believe that it should go. Bearing in mind that you had monies, you didn't have to go and look for it. Monies were already there, ready for you to move. So I think that is something that the government have to look at.
Okay. From your assessment also, from the individuals who may have received the, of course, relative assistance, whether it's via housing or maybe have gotten a new home, or for individuals who may have gotten assistance and help rebuild their roofs and so forth. I'm assuming you reside in the Sister Isle of Carriacou. What are those feedbacks you're receiving from individuals who are speaking to you? You did mention also that some of them are very happy for the assistance that they have received. What about those who are still pending for various reasons? We a few weeks ago we know the material assistance program was of course put on hold a wee bit for a reassessment of it and so forth. What are those that feedback you begin from individuals who you did mention? Of course, folks feel it's moving too slow, but folks who are still living in of course in a more or less, we could say, in a dilapidated conditions with under their houses and so forth, if that is still happening. I haven't been to Carriacou in a wee bit, but tell me about the general perception from individuals who may not have received those assistances yet.
Well, I think it's that question is best answered in the context of where the government, I think, failed to a certain extent in terms of doing that proper analysis, in terms of having a figure, a real number as to how much persons are damaged. And I think a lot of the work that I did was guesstimating the effort, maybe trying to move fast. But just to give a little example, if you get an appliance, a new appliance, and you start to assemble it, sometimes 2-3 hours going, you're trying to assemble it, and then you realize you get stuck. Then you run for the manual and read the manual. So something like that is a similar analogy like that, in the sense that you should have read the manual first, spend time, do the necessary preparatory work, and then the rollout, the implementation is going to go like a breeze. So you find yourself making decisions, big decisions, without properly gathering all the necessary information as to who is where, what is happening. And that in itself is what really led to the situation where there are some persons who are in critical situations who have not received support because either they get slipped through the crack, or either is it through political support or political victimization, whatever the case may be. But because of not having that logic and systematic approach to the recovery, it caused a lot of persons to feel aggrieved and to feel victimized in some cases, whether truth or not.
All right. right, that's still a little bit of glitch there from Senator Cox over there in the Sister Isle of Carriacou. We await that reconnection with him so we can continue with the program this morning.
And they would have gotten damage from the hurricane. Their names would have gone on the list 3-4 times and came off the list, and other persons got support. So I don't understand why that is happening. While I have an idea, but I believe that it is something that ought not to happen. And I think it's a missed opportunity for persons to be treated properly in this process. So it is that situation where you have this ad hoc responses, more reactive than proactive approach. So a number of persons have been left out, whether deliberately or.
All right, there. That little glitch we received.
It's not a big place. It's relatively small in the context of getting things done. And so if you would have done a proper assessment and knowing where everybody are, what's the situation, I think that in itself would have helped in terms of a better recovery effort.
All right. Senator Cox, I want to talk to you a wee bit about the economy inside of the Sister Isles of Carriacou and Petite Martinique. Let's talk about the local businesses. How are they doing? And in terms of the recovery process there, because, a lot of business got damaged and so forth. How is the business community, especially, how is it doing in Carriacou and Petite Martinique right now?
Well, I am involved in business to some extent, but generally it's been a bit slow, a bit sluggish, and for obvious reasons. I think it will take some time for business to get back pre-burial, and it's clear, so persons in terms of disposable income, those monies obviously are going to be directed towards maybe rebuilding and also treating with the high cost of living. Now, things have gotten so expensive post-burial. A lot of persons are not able to spend as much as they can. And so that is the challenge that we have. But so in terms of business have been relatively slow. Areas that you may see doing better in terms of spending is more the hardware store. They are the ones who are going to be more impacted in terms of economic activity. But generally, in terms of other businesses, it has been relatively slow for most persons. From what who have engaged, it has been relatively slow. But the businesses, they are trying. They are resilient for the most part, trying their best to see how they can go through this. I mean, this is some of the things that you have to go through in businesses. There are going to be some down periods. But what I'm hopeful is that the government can look at some measures to bring some easement for businesses in Carriacou. Look at some unique ways that Carriacou businesses can benefit separately apart, without probably impacting government revenue as well. But look to see how you can help businesses. It's very costly. It's very costly for to do business in Carriacou. As you know, a lot of the goods come from the mainland and has to be transported, so you have the transportation costs and a lot of issues in between logistics in terms of getting goods over in Carriacou. While we're on that, you might know one of the boats, the cargo boats and passenger boats, which is the Dollar Sea, had an unfortunate incident a few weeks ago. South of the island. So I empathize with the owners of the Dolly Sea. I know that they are working hard to see if they can get the boat off the reef.
Yeah.
So that.
All right. And Senator Cox, I want to ask you also once again. I may have lost you there for a wee bit, and it's a
tough time. Yeah, it's been a tough time for everybody. Right. So that is in a context in what the business situation is like.
Okay, we've been losing you from time to time. There are little connection issues, but I want to continue in terms of the economic, of course, revitalization in Carriacou. We know the government has launched various programs in several Carriacou to help revitalize the business. Have business been, in those programs that have been launched, have business really been getting that assistance to get them back on their feet again? Those particular programs that have been launched, got business able to access those programs and so forth to help them get back on their feet a wee bit inside of Carriacou?
Well, from my recollection, there was the issue of the VAT, there's the issue of the duties, and there is also the facility of the business reactivation loan. I know that there were a lot of complaints I saw from a public meeting that they had with the government, that persons have difficulties accessing the business loan facility because of the terms and conditions that were applied to access that facility. So I don't think the terms and conditions were soft enough. I think it was a little bit difficult, which I did spoke about in the parliament and publicly, that they need to revisit it to help persons. I mean, truly create a soft opportunity. I think the interest was like 1%, but in terms of qualifying, I think it was a little bit tough for some businesses. So some businesses were unable to access it. Others were. I know of one or two persons who were able to access it. I don't know to what extent in terms of how much they borrowed, but they were able to access it. But the challenge was the terms and conditions. They had a grant facility in.
All right, we may have lost some of the Cox there again in terms of suddenly hope he comes back and
maybe other debts that you had or something like that. Yeah.
All right.
So that is the issue with the loan facility.
All right.
With the duties, the challenge with the duties, there were a lot of difficulties. Persons, when they get on the port with the items, they had to pay the duties. I'm not certain what was the whole issue. Persons, when they get there, customs had no information on their items, and so they had to pay the duties. A lot of that happened. Persons were unable to access that. I think that one failed the most. The VAT did work for some point in time. I learned that they reinstated the VAT. I did make a call last Tuesday in Parliament for the VAT to be removed for items for building materials, in particular in Karakou. So I'm happy to hear that the government did hear the call of the people. I mean, just through me, I'm just facilitating the call of the people. And the call is that they believe that a lot of people are still rebuilding. And so if you're putting back VAT, you're not going to create a situation where you're actually helping them around this time. A lot of houses are still without roof. A lot of houses, if not the majority, are still without roof. So that is the situation before us. So government needs to take some time to look at what is taking place and to truly create an opportunity for Karakuans to benefit during this recovery process.
Senator Cox, we're due for a break. When we come back, we continue the conversation. I want to get into the conversation when we come back in terms of agriculture and the fishing industries. Your take on that when we come back. Stay with us, folks. It's To The Point here, Classic Radio, GBN TV. Don't touch it out.
My name is Pianki Toussaint. I am a proud representative of the Maggie brand and by extension Bryden and Miners. And I'm here to tell you that we are very excited to be once again the title sponsor of the GBN Maggie King of the Grill. This is an event that we have partnered with for well over a decade. It's a family fun environment. It's a great way to taste the culinary exploits of some of Grenada's finest chefs. And I'm telling you, if you're not there, you're missing out on something grand, right? This is something that our brand, Maggie, a household name, your culinary partner, is very, very happy to be a part of. And you'll get to see some exciting, not just see, but also taste some delicious and exciting things from us on that day as well. So we are looking forward to having you at the GBN Maggie King of the Grill. See you there.
Get ready, Grenada. The Maggie King of the Grill is back and bigger than ever. On Saturday, June 7th, Monroe's playing field transforms into the ultimate battleground for grill masters. Think you've got what it takes? Then fire up those grills and show your skills. Registration closes Friday, April the 11th. So don't miss your chance to compete for that sizzling prize and bragging rights. It's food, fun, and flavor, all powered by Maggie. To register, call 407-8458. Maggie King of the Grill, where flavor rules. See you there.
Hey GBN family, we've got a brand new home on Facebook and you need to be there. Follow us now on Facebook at Grenada Broadcasting Network -GBN. Stay updated with the latest news, sports, entertainment, and everything Grenada. Don't miss out. Like, follow, and share. Grenada Broadcasting Network. Stay informed. Stay ahead. First with the news. Fast with the updates.
Let me say welcome back to our listeners, welcome back viewers. It's To The Point here on Classic Radio GBN TV. With me this morning representing the opposition here. It's Opposition Tuesday, and representing the opposition we have Senator Cox with us this morning, and he's there in the Sister Isles of Carriacou this morning. Senator Cox, welcome back to the program this morning. Let's continue with our conversation this morning. I mentioned to you, Senator Cox, before the break, I want to talk to you a wee bit in terms of the support for agriculture and the fishing industries, important industries in the Sister Isles of Carriacou and Petit Martinique. Now, how is government supporting the agriculture and fishing industry in Carriacou after the, Hurricane Beryl? So we know in post-Hurricane Beryl. Tell us a wee bit, which is vital for the local economy in the Sister Isles, heavily affected by the hurricane. Tell us a wee bit in terms of the support that individuals who in that particular industry are been receiving support, especially from government.
I think from my recollection, there have been, in terms of the agriculture side, there have been support with not fencing wire, the clean fencing, but BRC wire for fencing purposes, and water tanks, black tanks. On the fishing side, there was support, I think 50% in terms of compensation for assessment, the estimate of the damages. If your damages were $10, you get back $5. And also there is also, I think, income support for fishermen as well. So those were the initiatives. I stand corrected if I left out any. For the fencing and the black tank, that rollout was a disaster, for want of a better word. And it goes back again to the whole issue of organizing and planning properly. Up to last night, I was receiving reports, of persons being denied support because for one reason or the other, somebody feel that they're not doing, or they're not farming, or they shouldn't. It was all sorts of foolish reasons why persons didn't receive that support. I've seen some of the fencing wire, the BRC wire by some residents, persons who, I don't know where they're going to put it. They probably have no place to use it. So it was, for me, I think that didn't go well at all. That one didn't go well at all. And so that one got messed up. For the support in terms of for the fishermen, a number of persons were actually victimized, I believe, because of perceived political preferences. Persons who both were damaged, they didn't get the support. The names, for a fact, we know that the names were removed from the list. We have facts. We have the evidence. Yeah, the names were removed from the list. Attempts were made to have the names put back on the list. And today they still haven't received the support. And they are genuinely registered fishing boats that got sustained damages. And I just don't understand why persons are treating that way. I don't get it. If we say that we are actually helping people in times of disaster, why are you treating persons in that way? I think it's unnecessary. It's not helping. Persons do have serious challenges, and to help them, to support, to get them going back out to fishing, to help them with their livelihood, that is not necessary. That is not who we are as Carriacouans. And I'm really disappointed, as a number of persons are disappointed. Those are monies that were donated to the country to support persons in times of disaster. So I think it's really, really unfortunate that that has happened. I do know that there are a number of persons who didn't receive the support, the income support. I think some promise was given to them that they will receive it after the budget has been passed. So hopefully in the not too distant future, those issues will be something of the past. I truly hope that. I just think it's really unnecessary to be doing bona fide farmers and fishermen. That I just think it's unnecessary. I mean, so much Black Tanks came. I mean, GD, I worked in agriculture. I worked with farmers for 15 years. That's one of my area competencies. So I know it at the back of my hand. I mean, I could call the names of farmers. I've called them bona fide farmers. And if you have almost 500 to 1,000 Black Tanks coming on island, why are farmers still? I mean, bona fide farmers still crying? I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. You know, so that is just my take on that particular issue. I think that one really fell short of satisfaction. Yeah.
You know, Senator Cox, I'm listening to you talk, and I'm feeling a little bit disappointed that I'm not hearing any positive feedback from some of the, of course, assistance that have been offered, especially to the farming and fishing industry. Of course, you mentioned a lot, but most of them hearing is of the negative back. Have you ever spoken to anyone that is receiving a positive feedback from the assistance from government? Yeah.
But in terms of the bona fide people, you have persons who...
We got of course, lost connection there with Senator Cox once again. As soon as he returns, we will certainly continue with the conversation. Still haven't gotten you back as yet, Senator Cox. We're having a little bit of challenge here with, of course, the connection this morning.
As against somebody who is doing farming as a main source of income, who the priority should go to. And it's within that context I'm saying that. So I'm not saying that persons haven't received support. Yeah. So I just want to clarify that. I don't want it to be said that persons haven't received support. In my opening statement, I said that persons are grateful for whatever support that they receive. But how it was done is because you have this issue where certain persons are targeted and they are deprived of the support, and they need it. So I'm just saying this, I don't think so. And it is fair. It is fair to call this out and to have it to be corrected. I believe it is fair. And even if it was a national party in government and that was done, it is still unfair and not right to do that. So this is not about, I'm speaking in the context and I'm raising the awareness. It's not anything about party. It is about Caracuans who are recovering from a natural disaster, and we have a facility to provide support for them, and bona fide people who are deserving of it and who need it. We should do the right thing. That is all. Point blank.
All right, great.
Yeah.
Let's speak a wee bit about the tourism sector in Carriacou and Petit Mat. You know, the tourism sector in Carriacou has always been an important pillar for the economy in Carriacou and in Petit Martinique. Let's talk about the tourism recovery strategy inside of Carriacou and Petit Martinique now. Now, what specific strategies is in place to revive the tourism sector? Because it has always been an important for folks like visitors come to the island, come to the mainland Grenada and wants to go to the sister isle of Carriacou. There are folks from other parts of the region that will come specifically to Carriacou for the beautiful surroundings of the sister isle. Tell us a wee bit. Considering
I haven't heard specifically, GD. Honestly, I haven't heard any specific strategy approach from the Ministry of the Tourism Authority.
All right. Lost that bit of a connection there this morning once again, making the of course the conversation a bit of a challenge. If you just a pause on you there, Senator Cox.
They probably would have done.
Senator Cox, just a pause on you there for a wee bit. We are having a little bit of challenge in terms of the connection this morning. So you were saying something. I hope if you don't mind repeating what you said before, so that we could get back a smooth flow of exactly what you were referring to.
Let me try and see if we can fix.
Because we're having a little bit of challenge in terms of the connection this morning. From time to time, I'm getting a break in you.
You're hearing me?
Loud and clear. So we can keep it at that momentum.
So let's work with that.
All right.
Yes. So I was saying that I haven't heard any strategic approach, strategic policy from the GTA as to how they're going to treat the Caribou going forward. There may have been one, they may have presented one, but I haven't heard of any. Yeah. However, fortunately for Caribou, Caribou itself is what you call a tourist attraction. Just coming to Caribou, a lot of people love Caribou just for being in Caribou, who we are as a people. So a lot of people love them, and a lot of people visit Caribou for that, and so we're very grateful for that. And we do have some tourism assets, or beaches, or string band music, or food, and so those things are quite solid. We have those. Our culture is still intact, so we do have something to offer in terms of that side. Some of our tourist sites, or physical tourist sites, obviously would be compromised, and so GTA probably have to do some work to ensure those sites are back and accessible and operational. So those are minor stuff that they can do very easily. However, where the challenge lies, I think it has to do with the whole issue of accommodation for Caracuans. And I say this in the context of somebody sent me, I think, a Facebook posting of a couple who came to Caribou, a Swedish couple who came to Caribou about a month or so ago, thereabout. And so they had called a hotel, and booked 5 nights. And only to find when they got to Caribou, I think, from what I read, they were told that there were no breakfast or lunch on site, no restaurant on site. So it appears that hotel or guest house probably used to have breakfast, and there were no hotel or there were no restaurants in close proximity. So I think those were the two things. Oh, I think it didn't have Wi-Fi. I think something like that. They didn't have Wi-Fi as well. So the guests they took the ferry and returned back to Grenada. They said they. So one of the reasons why I raise this in the context that while we do have some hotels that have some limited accommodation, there are still some challenges for most of our guest houses and hotels. They're not fully operational. Well, I mean, they're operating, but they're not fully back in terms of occupancy. So there are going to be some challenges. And so sometimes how we advertise and welcome persons during this period, I think it's important that we try to be as clear and honest, in terms of our situation, and not mislead people. Because the last thing you want is somebody to come here and then get a different experience from what was advertised. So it doesn't spell good for us in terms of our tourism product and how we receive people. So for me, that is the challenge, and that is the concern that I raise, and I want to raise this awareness, and probably GTA can work closely with their partners in terms of accommodations to help them to craft some appropriate messaging in terms of what you're putting out there now, in terms of welcoming guests. So I think that is the challenge. And so we have this issue of accommodation, and that has always been a challenge for Caribou, especially during our festival periods. That has always been a challenge for accommodation, which is a good thing, which means that there is a demand. But now it's going to be a lot more challenging. Persons who had additional place that they used to rent or do Airbnb that might have been damaged, or sometimes their home might damage and they have to now stay in that place to accommodate themselves and their family. So those are some of the intricacies of what is taking place in terms of accommodation, in terms of the tourism. But all in all, some of the restaurants are back up and operating, which is good, while some have not been back up as yet. But I think there is progress on the tourism side, and I think in time we should be okay.
All right. I want to switch the conversation a wee bit in terms of, we're into the dry season. And of course, in Grenada, we're getting some rain from time to time and so forth. How is the dry season in terms of the, in Caribou, I should ask, in terms of the water supply and so forth? Tell me, how is things? We know post-hurricane burial, we know a lot of folks in Caribou, the struggle for water and so forth, because of, most of the folks in Caribou use their home as their roofs per se as a catchment for water and so forth. How is the impact of the dry season in Carriacou thus far?
Well, the dry season, we basically in the midst of it, you could say, in the midst of the dry season. It's challenging for a number of persons. And speaking to one of the truckmen recently, he came up to me and he said, Cox, we having a water crisis, and we having a water. He said, you have so much orders inside and unable to fill them, meaning that persons would have gone to Nawasa and pay for water. So you have a long list of persons, and because the water is being rationed out, he thinks that it's creating a crisis, and so they cannot actually bring the water to the persons as they need. So it is a challenge, but I think it's important to explain the context why this dry season is different. Why this dry season is one that we should be very pay close attention to, not just this one, and maybe the following one as well. As you know, Carriacou, we have the best practices in terms of climate change, in terms of rainwater harvesting. That is what we know. That is how we live. We get water by rainwater harvesting mainly. It's only in recent time we would have had the desal plant to help complement what we're doing as the demand for water grows. So you have a situation where you have houses in Carriacou that have roofs. All houses would have had roofs on, collecting some degree of water. And so hurricane came, those roofs are off. And so the amount of water that we used to collect during the rainy season is far in comparison to what we're able to collect. And so there is less water available on an island, if you want to put it like that. During this dry season, it's going to be far less. Fortunately for us, some of our persons would have gone to the mainland, but then that in itself would have normalized back with the number of persons from Greater coming to Carriacou for work. So you could say basically it kind of like back to normal in terms of numbers. So we are challenged this dry season in terms of water. Also, fortunately, we just had kind of not a large influx of people from the mainland, so the pressures for water is not that much. Now, also they had a breakdown recently. I think the pump got damaged, and that put even further stress on the demand for water. So it is a difficult time. It's a difficult time for a lot of persons during this period. We do have underground water, so a lot of people would use the bowl water. I think there's a private supplier who has a well. That is a bit costly from what I understand in terms of the price. Very few people are able to access that. Persons who have the ability will buy bottled water. They have to purchase bottled water. But it is a challenge. Now, what we've noticed over the past few years, what I've noticed is that the rainy season did not commence the usual time. So right after Corpus Christi, we expect some rain, even on the day. But it has not happened. It has not happened in recent time. And you'll find now the dry season extend into June, July, even sometime August. So while it may do get a little shower, but not to the extent that you would normally have, that signifies that, yes, the rainy season is back. And so that is the concern that faces us. So we are in April. And if we do not get significant showers, as anticipated a normal rainy season, it's going to be very challenging for us. It's not crisis level as yet in terms of water and availability of water while the stocks are going down. But if it continues like that within the next month or two, it's going to be very, very serious for us. I recall in 2012, it was very bad. 2012 or 2010, something about it. It was very bad where at that time, 2012, correct. It was very bad. That time, NDC government report, we had water was barged in. and we had to get water from mainland for the hospital. At that time was the health services administrator of the hospital. So I knew clearly the challenges that we had in terms of having water to supply for the health sector. So there are a number of challenges. A lot of construction is taking place. So there are pressures on the water supply from the wells and things like that. So in a nutshell, because we have less catchment, no one amount of rain that falls, we only collect a certain amount of water. That is the challenge that we have. And so in effect, we'll collect less water during this rainy season because of less houses that have the capacity to collect water. So which means going into the dry season next year, you still have the challenge of still having a limited amount of water available, providing that NAWASA can up its production to help bridge that gap. We are going to have a challenge with water. So I'm just raising this awareness. I think it's a good opportunity for government and for NAWASA to do the necessary assessment now to see what they can do to alleviate, at least cushion some of that. But I believe that we do have a possible serious issue with water on our hand going forward. And we have our festival times, which is important for the island in terms of economic activity and increasing person visiting, that also putting additional pressure in terms of our water supply and water usage. So you see, that is the situation. And just to give you how serious water is for us as Caracoans. So right after the hurricane, all my guttering were blown out, windows blown out. So I was like feverishly trying to get my guttering up. So I actually put on spouting on my house before I put windows. That's to tell you how serious water means to us on island. Yeah.
All right. So Cox, let me ask you this as we under the conversation of water in Carriacou. Have you been hearing any conversation from the authorities, NAWASA, our government representatives and so forth, knowing the impact that Hurricane Beryl had on the island and what is expected with the dry season, upon the sister island of Carriacou now? What kind of conversation have you been hearing from the authorities I mentioned in terms of putting a curve on this, especially during this time of the year? Any conversation of that level have actually took place?
Two things. I know that NAWASA is working in terms of expanding production of water supply. They're working on getting an additional desalination plant and putting in more pipes. But that is probably might materialize sometime next year, probably late next year or so. And additionally, I know that they are planning to have some consultations in Carriacou sometime this week. I believe tomorrow, if I'm not mistaken. An invitation was sent to me to attend. They are having some consultations to speak with residents about the whole water situation to get feedback from them. So they are proactive in some extent, by reaching out and are fully aware of the situation.
All right, great. I want to talk to you addressing some of the, of course, other issues that's related inside like Carriacou. Talk to me about those topical issues that are happening inside like Carriacou right now. We're talking awarding of contracts, the alleged unfair termination of contracts. Tell us a bit. In terms of commenting on this.
I want to see how happy I am that 5 in the early. How to say hours, the early hours of the NDC administration in 2022, they would have dismissed some workers in Carriacou here. And those workers felt that they were wrongly dismissed. And they took the matter up with the Ministry of Labor and the Labor Commissioner. And I'm happy to hear that those workers are going to be compensated, 5 workers. They are going to receive compensation. I do not know the details in terms of how the compensation is going to be done. It would have been nice for them to at least get back their work, their job, which would be much more better than having a one-off compensation. But it was announced, and I'm saying this by the Minister for Labor at our last parliamentary sitting. So it's a fact. I know there are a number of persons sometimes believe what I say here is not the truth. So I want to ask persons to go back and listen to the Minister for Labor, who actually indicate that in the House, because we raised it and she stand up and said that it was no. The member for Labor raised it on the adjournment, and she stand and said that the matter was resolved. So I'm happy that that is the case for those persons. They were vindicated in terms of the dismissal. So that's one. The other issue that we notice in terms of practice is a lack of advertising for contracts. It has been practiced by this government. It's a precedent that they set, which is a very dangerous one, where that contracts are not being advertised. If any contract that is advertised is either from a statutory body, maybe now contracts are normally advertised, or maybe say from BNTF or a World Bank project or a CDB project, where the procurement rules are strict and government cannot interfere with it. But in terms of government contracts, we don't just see people walking, or you hear some guy say down the road, I get the contract for this, I'm going and build this, I get the contract for that, and maybe boasting about it. That is the precedent. That is what happens now. There is no advertisement, no anything like that. While, yes, in a disaster, you want things to move speedily, but there are ways you can shorten the bidding period to offer some level of transparency and to offer some level of efficiency. Because the last thing anybody would want as a parliamentary rep, you don't want to be wrongly accused of being favorable to some and unfavorable to others. You want to be seen as putting it out there and let persons bid on their merit and based on what are the requirements to fulfill those contracts. So that has been the precedent. I think it's not a good one. It's not a good precedent. I think it's important for those contracts to be done properly. Yeah. So the majority of contracts have not been advertised. They have not been advertised at all. So unfortunately, that is the case. But I say this in terms of what I see, and I probably would advise the government to do differently. So that is one of the things. There's an issue that I want to raise, particularly a Carriacou contractor who has been aggrieved. It has to do with the Mount Pleasant government school. And, I raise it because, sometimes when you don't have the intricate understanding of what some of the challenges that people do and the sacrifices and what it takes for somebody to execute a contract, a construction contract. Sometimes persons just take things for granted. And sometimes we make comments not understanding what's taking place. So initially, the refurbishment of Mount Pleasant School contract from the Ministry of Infrastructure in Grenada was issued to this contractor in Carriacou. He signed the contract. Before he was about to commence, the ministry informed him that there were some architectural changes, some structural changes in the design they have to make. So he is to hold, not to execute. A whole year passed, GT, before he was given the green light to start. And so right there is where the first issue arises. So once you start, so you commence and you start putting things in place in terms of financing, workmen, things like that, and you have to stop and wait for a whole year, you would have incurred costs. There are additional challenges, especially if you were to put up financing. And in his case, he would have to put up some financing to commence the work, because I doubt he got any money to start. So there come a situation where Beryl came. I think there was some challenges, there were stoppages, there was some miscommunication. There might be breaches on both sides of the contract. I think the government is saying that he breached the contract, and the contractor himself is contending that government would have breached the contract as well. However, a decision was made by the Ministry of Infrastructure to terminate his contract. So his contract was terminated. The contractor from mainland Grenada was hired, came on site. I think they came on site even before the contractor was able to evacuate the site. So GD, let me say this, and I wanted to, and I'm just saying this in the context of for a person to understand. And I think the Ministry of Infrastructure had an opportunity to do things a little more clean, a little more better. So he was terminated. He was asked to remove from the site. And to this date, GT, he has not been compensated. He has not been compensated for work done or for damages or whatever the case may be in terms of summary, in terms of closing of the contract. He has not been compensated. And I'm certain that he has outstanding financial commitments attributed to that project. So I did raise it at the Parliament, and I did raise it to the attention of the Minister of Education, who is a member of the Senate. And I did ask him, to use his good offices to find a way to have this matter resolved. And I'm saying this morning that it is somewhat unfortunate and unfair that that he had to be treated in such a manner, and it wasn't done nicely. It's not a nice thing at all, and I really feel it for my brother who were removed from the contract for whatever reason, but it has been difficult for him and his family, and to date he has not received payments at all.
All right. Certainly hope that this matter will get resolved soon. Senator Cox, we drew for a break. Let's take it. When we come back in the next segment, folks, of course, our listeners and viewers, you have the option of calling and maybe a question or two you may like to ask Senator Cox. We wrap this program up at the top of the hour. Stay with us. Don't touch it down.
Tracksuit, water bottle, sneakers. It's time. Let's get ready to join us on the road this year for Quad Bank's annual Pump It Up Family Fun Walk. Tell your family and friends, and let's get moving towards a healthier lifestyle. Carry a coup. Come out in your numbers on Sunday, April 6th from 4 p.m. as we pump it up from Alexis Food Store's car park to the Hillsborough Tennis Court. On Sunday, May 4th, the action is on the mainland. We're hitting the road at 4 p.m. from Monrouge Playing Field to the Kirani James Athletic Stadium. Registration ends on May 2nd or while stocks last. So get your packages today. Individual packages cost $20. For groups of 3 or more, packages cost $15 each. Proceeds go towards the Princess Royal Hospital in Carriacou. Visit our website for more details. See you on the road for
Welcome home.
One venue, 3 cars, $35,000 in cash. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the big one, because on Saturday, May 3rd from 6 p.m., get set for the biggest event for 2025, the massive Cars and Cash Mega Bingo at the National Stadium. You can win 3 mint-condition cars, a Suzuki Ignis, a Suzuki Swift Sports, and a Honda Vezel Plus. But wait, that's not all. You can also win $35,000 in cash.
Whoa, is this real?
Yes, it is. 3 cars plus $35,000 in cash. Tickets are $60 for 1 or $100 for 2. This will definitely be the event for 2025. Don't miss the massive Cars and Cash Mega Bingo. Saturday, May 3rd at the National Stadium. Brought to you by Carib. It's the way we play.
Whether you're a culinary expert like me, okay, I'm joking, I'm not an expert, I'm a novice, or a novice like me, we have the products for you to assist you on your culinary journey. Let us start with the seasoning. This is the foundation. This is where you start. So we have our small sachets here. As you can see, we have chicken, we have fish, we have all-purpose, we have to flavor the pot. Various sizes. We have the shakers here in 125 gram as well in the same flavors. And if you want a larger format, we have it in the 200 gram. Remember, these things will be available at the GBN Maggie King of the Grill, and they're also available at your favorite store or supermarket.
Welcome back, listeners. Welcome back, viewers, once again. It's To The Point here on Classic Radio GBN TV. Of course, sorry for that little bit of delay there and coming back to you folks. We had that little bit of glitch there trying to get the reconnection back there with Senator Cox, but all is back up and running. Senator Cox, welcome back once again, and good morning to you. This segment, Senator Cox, we did mention before the break that we're going to encourage, of course, our listeners and viewers, if you do have a question or two you may like to ask, I beg of you to be brief for time purposes, folks, and just be brief with your questions so that we can move on and accommodate as much callers as possible. Let's go to our first caller. Caller, you're live. Good morning. Via WhatsApp. Good morning to you.
Good morning, GT. Good morning, Senator Cox. Senator Cox, every time you call me, you sound like a cartoon. I don't need to call you Tom or Jerry. But anyway, my question is that you speak a lot about Carrico, and every time you call me, it's just condemn. Senator Cox, I want you to tell me, what 5 things, I want you to name me 5 things you do after burial to better the life of Carrico people. For example, you talk about the people still have tarpaulin covering, and to know how many houses you help move away from the tarpaulin into galvanized. Another question again. You spoke about the Windward Jetty. Tell me what you're doing to help with the Windward Jetty, because we see like Senator like St. Clair, Tessa, we see Queens in Victoria. We hear the impact that they're making in people's life. But I want you to tell me the things that you're doing, how many houses that you built during Bell, because you're a senator. You have to do something. You're looking to run in the next election to be the next candidate. All right, so tell me what you're doing. Stop telling us what Kevin don't do, because we see the progress, we see the picture, everything. Tell me what you do to change life and the production the production that you make in Carrico, also with the fishermen and with the agriculture. Tell us what you do.
All right, caller, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Senator Cox, response to the caller there, if you can, please.
Sure, certainly. I think the first thing, GT, I've been talking here for a whole hour, and I think the caller is incorrect in saying that I condemn everything. And if persons can recollect, I did say what is working, what has worked, and what was not working. So basically, I think he's incorrect. He is only just narrowing down and probably things that he's not comfortable that I mentioned about. He wanted to know how much house that I built and Tevin is doing. But just to make correct him and for the public, first of all, the parliamentary and the minister, whatever things that have been done is being done in the name of the government and in the name of the state. And it is state funds that have been used to support the persons during this difficult period. And while the minister may do personal things for himself, I think largely, everybody must be aware that it is funds that are donated or funds that are collected through taxes that have been used to help people during this recovery process. So that is, I just want to clear the end. The third thing is the Windward Jetty. And I think that in terms of me speaking about the jetty, it's not just me mentioning it, but it is a concern that was raised by Pittimatnikans and persons within the Windward and Pittimatnik area. And I believe that as a Carrico and as opposition, we have a responsibility to raise issues that are affecting persons. And I've raised it, GT, not in the context of condemning the government failure to respond, but I've also given suggestions, clear, simple solutions as to how they could do something temporary in short order. I know the government have plans for elaborate or something extensive and permanent, and that would take some time. But while they are planning to do that, there is an issue, and it's a real issue that is affecting Pitimanticans right now, in particular. And so you see, sometimes when people make those kind of comments, it's sad. I'm really saddened by it because they are not the ones who, I mean, if I look at the seawater right now, GT, the amount of wind that is blowing out there, they are not the ones that have to jump in a small boat and come on the shore and try to get off to go in Hillsborough, to catch a bus, take out your shoes, jump in the water, and then try and get on the sand to make sure nothing and puncture your foot, and to jump in a bus to get stuff for the business or for the family, or to do banking or whatsoever, and then wait for when the boat come down to get back in this rough waters, even to go back home. They're not the ones. I don't think the caller is experiencing in that, and so he's certainly blinded how this is really affecting people. I mean, just imagine if a senior citizen has to come to Carriacou recently, the other days, they had to literally heist out of the small boat. And so those are the real challenges, and I'm just raising it as an awareness for persons, for the authorities, to know it's a real issue that is affecting people and to do something about it in short order. I don't think that is unreasonable. From where I sit and my responsibility as a responsible opposition, as a Carriacouan, and somebody who's integrally involved with Pitimanticans and have family living over there, I don't think it's an unreasonable call. And I would not stop speaking about issues that is affecting people. I think that is my responsibility. And while I have this opportunity to do that, I will do so. So if the caller feels that is being cartoonish, well, then tell him you will hear more cartoon. You will hear more of it. So I want to see that. Now let me get to the next part. I want to make sure I answer these questions. And I talk about 5 things that I would have done. I could name 20 things that I would have done and continue to do. Just as recent as Sunday, GT, I was assisting a farmer building back his shed on his farm on Sunday. I did that for most of the day on Sunday. We assisted persons with groceries. Just last night, GT, I've been an extensive discussion with a young lady who needs significant support, and I'm trying to find some ways to assist her. I could name several things, but I don't want to be calling people names. Yeah, I don't want to be doing that on the air. That is not who I am, and so I mean we had our kitchen doing hot meals. We had so much initiatives. We go around and help people with their homes. We bring groceries, a lot of stuff we have done, GT. And personally, I feel pleased and proud. And maybe not the show-off type, but the one who always run and posting on social media. So probably, maybe I probably need to do more of that, GT, probably. So when I'm saying this, I am proud. And not just to help other people, GT. I mean, God was able to bless me, fortunately. I was able to build back my mother's roof, yeah, and she's inside, and I'm very proud of that. All right. I'm saying that in the context that I know that there are a number of persons who still struggling to do that, GT. All right. Those are the facts.
Senator Cox, I understand you want to answer the caller, of course, all of his questions, but we do have other callers that's on hold for a wee bit, and of course we're a bit strapped for time. So let's entertain another caller. Caller, good morning, you're live, and I'm so sorry, and I appreciate your patience. Good morning to you.
Hello, good morning, and how are you?
Not too bad, sir. Go right ahead, please.
Thank you for accepting my call. Senator Cox, good morning, and all the best.
Good morning, sir.
Right. But I feel you must stop bamboos people and spreading propaganda. You're a big man. And you must act as a big man. Propaganda is not a good thing to be spreading. And bamboozling people is not a good thing.
Caller, let me move on to another caller, please. Caller, you're live via WhatsApp. Good morning to you. Let's hear from you.
Yes, good morning, GT, and good morning, Senator Cox.
Good morning.
And I do want to say my heart do go out for the people of Carriacou and Petit Martinique. I must
thank you.
And
thank you for your empathy.
Also to the northern part of Grenada. I remember experiencing Ivan. And I do want to say that after Ivan, I could recall that maybe we had situations where when people were unroofed, maybe for about a year after. And I do understand. Now, I heard you mention earlier on when you started making your statements that they should have been more progressive or more aggressive in their actions to do something. But then you said that you do also wanted them to do a proper assessment before anything was done. So it kind of tied up the situation for me as to which one did you want them to do? Did you want them to do an assessment first, or do you want them to do a proper assessment, or do you want them to be more aggressive in their approach to billing back? That would because the two cannot happen at the same time.
No, I think, thank you, caller, but I think with the audio was breaking up. I think you probably missed. I said that in their efforts to be aggressive in their response, I think they overlook, the aspect of planning properly, and that would have messed up the whole thing. Because I did give the analogy in terms of the situation where if you get a new appliance, if you don't read the manual properly, then it will take you a longer time to set it up. So what has happened? They were very reactive. They were more reactive than actually sit down and say, hey, what is the situation? What is the real issues? Where the problems are before you start moving? So I think there was a situation where a lot of things were chaotic, and I understand, and in some cases, persons may not have the experience dealing with disaster of that nature. So a lot of things can go wrong. I mean, I could tell you plenty of things that go wrong, I mean, I could tell you a lot of stuff, a lot of pilfering and stuff. I mean, but I wouldn't come here and speak about those trivial stuff, GT. I mean, a lot of when people stole a lot of stuff, and a lot of stuff is out for sale right now. A lot of stuff from Nadman and kind of thing. But I wouldn't waste time to speak about those trivial stuff. Yeah.
All right.
I would want to focus on things that is really affecting persons.
Senator Cox, we are a bit strapped for time, and I think we may have to get some closing comments. My apology to the callers, of course, because of the bit of issues we are experiencing with the audio connection this morning. We have went over time a wee bit. It's already 10 minutes after the 10 o'clock hour. So, Senator Cox, I'm going to ask you to make some closing comments, and of course, we take a wrap for today's program.
GT, it's always a pleasure to be here, and I know that persons do have share different opinion to me, but I live here. I'm experiencing what is taking place here. And of course, I believe that Carriacouans are doing their best to see how they can move through this. And they're just asking for the process to be open, to be fair, so that they can have a chance to provide for their families and to do what they can to recover from this hurricane impact. And that is all. Persons, we are proud people, we don't fight up too much, we do things ourselves. And the whole issue is that they're just asking for the issues to be addressed. And I believe that I have a responsibility to raise an awareness. And if I were to really come down and nitpick on everything, you probably need about 3-4 hours for me to deal with all those issues, all those matters. So I'm just raising, the critical issues that is affecting persons, and I think that I have a responsibility to do so, and I will continue to do so. I think it's important.
All right. Senator Cox, I want to thank you once again for coming on the program this morning. I appreciate you taking the time out to speak with us this morning in relation to what's going on in the Citral of Carriacou from an opposition point of view. Mm-hmm. And thank you so much. Hope we could do this again. Hope we could get another bit of the conversation in on another level. Until then, have a good day, sir, and all the best.
Yes, so thank you, GT, and thank you to the callers, of course, and the viewers.
All right.
I really appreciate it.
All right. Thank you so much, sir. Hey, folks, that's going to take a wrap for this edition Up to the Point for today. Thanks all who contribute towards today's program. Join me again tomorrow for another edition. That's what we say goodbye.